The screech of tires ripped through the rainy Chicago night like a gunshot, freezing Kevin's blood as he slammed on his brakes 20 feet from the mangled Prius that had just hydroplaned into a light pole. In the split-second blur, he saw her. His niece Lily, all of 5 years old, tumbling from the back seat like a rag doll, her pink backpack flying into the gutter, before the world narrowed to one impossible sight. Brian, his sister's husband, the soft-spoken gay guy everyone whispered about behind his back, lunging from the sidewalk like a man possessed, scooping her up just as the cars had crumpled inches from her tiny body. "Jesus, Brian, no!" Kevin's voice cracked raw over the downpour, but it was already too late. The man they'd all mocked as just a pretty face behind a desk had just become the only thing standing between life and the kind of nightmare that shatters families forever. Kevin Riley gripped the steering wheel of his beat-up Ford Escape, knuckles white against the worn leather, as the wipers battled the relentless November rain. It was one of those Midwest storms that felt personal, like the sky was weeping for all the secrets buried under the Windy City's concrete skin. He'd been rushing home from a late shift at the ad agency, another fruitless pitch meeting where his ideas got shot down like clay pigeons, when the accident unfolded right in front of him. But it wasn't just any crash. It was Sarah's car, his sister's, and in the chaos, Brian had moved like lightning, his trench coat flapping like a cape as he vaulted the median and snatched Lily from the jaws of twisted metal. By the time Kevin parked crookedly and bolted from the car, the scene was a watercolor of flashing lights and muffled sirens. Paramedics swarmed the Prius, prying open the driver's door where Sarah slumped, dazed but conscious, her forehead gashed from the impact. Lily wailed in Brian's arms, her face buried in his neck, tiny fists clutching his shirt as if he'd conjured her straight out of thin air. Brian stood there in the downpour, soaked to the bone, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, murmuring soft nonsense in that lilting voice of his, the one that always made Kevin's stomach twist in ways he refused to name. "Brian? What the hell? How did you even?" Kevin stammered, splashing through puddles to reach them. Up close, Brian looked wrecked. A scrape along his jaw from where he'd hit the pavement diving for Lily, his glasses askew, but his eyes, those sharp green eyes, locked on Kevin with a mix of defiance and exhaustion that hit like a sucker punch. "I was walking home from the clinic," Brian said simply, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands as he rocked Lily gently. "Saw the skid. She was throwing a fit in the back. Wanted ice cream, wouldn't buckle up right. Sarah hit a slick spot." He trailed off, glancing at the wreck, then back to Kevin. "I couldn't just stand there. As if it were that easy." Kevin's mind reeled, flashing back to every family dinner, every barbed joke lobbed Brian's way like grenades disguised as laughs. The gay brother-in-law. That's what they called him in whispers, the Riley clan, with their Irish Catholic roots dug deep into the South Side, where different was a polite word for wrong. Sarah had met Brian in college, back when they were both theater majors at DePaul, dreaming of Broadway lights. But dreams die quick in Chicago winters. Sarah got pregnant with Lily right after graduation. Miracle baby, they called her, courtesy of a sperm donor and a shotgun wedding to keep the grandparents happy. Brian stepped up, because that's who he was. The guy who fixed leaks and folded laundry and smiled through the side eyes, even when Uncle Pat slurred. "So, Brian, still playing house while the rest of us work real jobs?" And Kevin? Kevin had been the worst, or at least the most complicit. As Sarah's big brother, the golden boy with the marketing degree and the corner office dreams, he'd laughed along to keep the peace. "Lighten up, man, it's just ribbing." But late at night, nursing a whiskey in his wicker park walk-up, Kevin would replay those moments and feel the shame coil in his gut. Because Brian wasn't just some punchline. He was the one who'd shown up at 2 a.m. when Kevin's ex dumped him via text, brewing coffee and listening without judgment. He was the one whose laugh lines crinkled just right when Lily smeared frosting on his cheek. And God help him, he was the one Kevin caught himself staring at too long across the Thanksgiving table, wondering what it would be like to trace the curve of his jaw instead of pretending he didn't notice. Now, as the EMTs loaded Sarah onto a stretcher, her eyes fluttering open to lock on Brian with tear-streaked gratitude. "You saved her. Oh God, you saved her." Kevin felt the ground shift. This wasn't mockery fodder. This was real, heroic. And it cracked open every lie he'd told himself about the man holding his niece like she was the only star in his sky. They rode to Northwestern Memorial in the ambulance's belly, Lily dozing against Brian's chest, her breaths evening out into hiccuping snores. Kevin sat across from them, his slacks ruined, phone buzzing ignored in his pocket. Texts from Mom, no doubt, demanding updates. Sarah, bandaged and groggy from painkillers, squeezed Brian's knee. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she whispered, and Brian just nodded, his throat working like he was swallowing glass. At the hospital, the admitting nurse, a burly woman named Carla with a no-nonsense bob, eyed Brian's ID and snorted. "Receptionist at Lakeshore Clinic? Honey, you look like you could use a desk job after this stunt." It was meant as a joke, but it landed like shrapnel. Brian's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, well, tonight I was off the clock." Kevin wanted to snap at her, tell her to back off, but the words stuck. Instead, he watched as Brian handed Lily to a pediatric tech for checks, his hands lingering like he was afraid she'd vanish. When the doctor cleared her, miraculous, just bruises and a sprained wrist, Brian exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since the crash. Sarah pulled him into a hug, sobbing into his shoulder, and Kevin stood there, an outsider in his own family, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down like the storm outside. That night, after Sarah was discharged with a concussion protocol and Lily crashed out in her hospital crib, the three of them, Kevin, Sarah, Brian, huddled in a vinyl booth at the cafeteria's 24-hour grill. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. Sarah, nursing a Jell-O cup, kept replaying it. 1 second she's screaming about sprinkles, the next, boom. "If you hadn't been there." She trailed off, eyes shiny. "My knight in shining armor." Brian chuckled, low and self-deprecating, stirring his black coffee. Hardly. More like the fool who trips over his own feet. But Kevin saw the flicker, the way Brian's fingers tightened on the mug, the shadows under his eyes that spoke of a lifetime of proving himself to people who wouldn't look twice. "You were incredible," Kevin said, the words bursting out before he could stop them. It was the first time he'd said anything real to Brian all night, and it hung there, heavy as the rain pattering the windows. Brian met his gaze, something electric passing between them, a spark that had nothing to do with gratitude and everything to do with the forbidden. Sarah didn't notice, too wrapped in relief. "Call Mom, Kev. Tell her we're okay. And Brian, tomorrow we're celebrating. No arguments." As she dozed against the booth, Kevin leaned forward, voice low. "You scared the shit out of me back there." It came out rougher than he meant, laced with the fear he'd buried under sarcasm for years. Brian's lips quirked, that half-smile that always undid him. "Join the club. But hey, receptionists have their moments." In that moment, under the hum of vending machines and the distant beep of monitors, Kevin realized the hook was set. The man he'd dismissed as a punchline had just rewritten their story, and Kevin wasn't sure he could walk away unscathed. The days blurred into a fragile normalcy. Sarah took a week off from her teaching gig at Lincoln Park High, doting on Lily with storytime marathons and hot cocoa forts. Brian returned to the clinic, his scrapes scabbing into a badge of honor, fielding calls from reporters who caught wind of the pedestrian hero story via the evening news. The Chicago Tribune ran a blurb. "Lakeshore receptionist turned sidewalk savior in fiery skid." Fiery? Hardly. It was rain and bad luck. But the headline stuck, and suddenly Brian's phone wouldn't stop vibrating with congrats from strangers. At home, in the cozy Lincoln Square row house Sarah and Brian shared with Lily's crayon-scrawled walls and a backyard swing set, the air shifted. No more offhand jabs at family gatherings. Aunt Maureen sent a fruit basket with a card reading, "To our brave Brian. Proud of you, son." Even Uncle Pat grunted approval over beers at the next barbecue, clapping Brian on the back hard enough to slosh his IPA. "Didn't think you had it in ya, kid. Thought you were all talk and no tackle." Brian took it with grace, but Kevin saw the toll, the way his shoulders tensed when the praise turned back to for a desk jockey. And Kevin? He couldn't stop orbiting them. Dropping by with takeout from Giordano's, offering to fix the leaky faucet Sarah complained about, lingering in the kitchen while Brian chopped veggies for stir-fry, their elbows brushing in the narrow space. It started innocently enough. One evening, after Lily's bedtime, Sarah begged off early with a migraine, leaving Kevin and Brian alone with a bottle of Malbec and the Cubs game droning on TV. The apartment smelled of garlic and rain-damp earth from the open window. Brian poured, handing Kevin a glass with that easy familiarity that made his pulse stutter. To unlikely heroes, Kevin toasted, clinking glasses. The wine was bold, like Brian's quiet strength, warming him from the inside out. Brian sipped, eyes on the screen where a batter fouled off a slider. Nah, to family, messy as it is. The word family landed like a stone in still water. Kevin set his glass down, the liquid sloshing. About that, I've been thinking. All the shit I've let slide, the jokes, the looks. I should have said something. Every time. Brian waved it off, but his voice softened. Water under the bridge, Kev. We're good. But they weren't. Not really. Kevin leaned in, the confession bubbling up like the wine. No, we're not. Because I've been lying to myself too. About you. About this. He gestured vaguely between them, heart hammering. Brian's glass paused mid-air, his expression unreadable. This? You know what I mean. Kevin's voice dropped to a whisper, the game forgotten. The way I look at you. The way it feels when you're in the room. I told myself it was nothing, bro code or whatever bullshit. But tonight, seeing you with Lily. Fuck, Brian. You're everything. The silence stretched, thick as the humid air. Brian set his glass down slowly, green eyes searching Kevin's face. Kevin, you're my brother-in-law. Sarah's my wife. Lily's my daughter. Biologically? No. But yeah, she's yours in every way that counts. Kevin cut in, desperate. And Sarah knows about you being gay. She always has. That's why you too. It works because it's real, not some fairy tale. But me? I'm the idiot who's been in love with you since that goddamn wedding toast. Brian's breath hitched, and for a heartbeat, Kevin thought he'd bolt. Instead, Brian reached out, fingers brushing Kevin's wrist. Light as a promise, heavy as a chain. You can't say that. Not now. Not like this. But he didn't pull away, and when their lips met, tentative, tasting of wine and regret, it wasn't a mistake. It was inevitable. The kiss deepened, hands tangling in hair, the world narrowing to the scrape of stubble and the soft hitch of breath. Brian tasted like home, like the forbidden fruit Kevin had denied himself for years. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together. This is dangerous, Brian murmured, thumb tracing Kevin's jaw. Sarah, the family. I know. Kevin's voice was wrecked. But I can't pretend anymore. Outside, thunder rumbled. A warning or a benediction. In that stolen moment, with Lily's nightlight glowing down the hall, they crossed the line. And there was no going back. The affair bloomed in the cracks of their lives, fragile as the first crocuses pushing through Chicago's spring slush. It was February now, for months since the crash, and the city wore its thaw like a tentative smile. Sidewalks slick with melt, air sharp with promise. Brian and Kevin navigated their secret with the precision of thieves. Stolen lunches at hole-in-the-wall delis in Pilsen, where the tamales steamed and no one knew their names. Late-night drives along Lakeshore Drive, windows down, hands intertwined over the gearshift while Adele crooned heartbreak anthems on the radio. Each touch was a rebellion. Each kiss a vow whispered against collarbones in the shadowed back seat of Kevin's Escape. But guilt was a shadow that followed, long and unrelenting. Sarah, blissfully unaware, threw herself into wedding anniversaries and Lily's kindergarten applications, her laughter a balm that soothed the jagged edges of Brian's deception. You're glowing, she'd tease him over breakfast, flipping pancakes while Lily finger-painted the tablecloth. Must be that hero high. Brian would laugh it off, pressing a chaste kiss to her temple. But inside, he was unraveling. How do you love two people without breaking them both? Kevin fared no better. At work, his pitches finally landed. A campaign for a local brewery that had the boss clapping him on the back. But success tasted like ash. He'd stare at his laptop screen, emails from clients blurring as memories intruded. Brian's laugh echoing in the clinic's empty lobby after hours. The way his body arched under Kevin's hands in a Logan Square motel, sheets tangled like their lies. This isn't sustainable, Kevin told himself nightly. Scrolling Grindr profiles he had no intention of messaging, seeking absolution in pixels. But nothing filled the void except Brian's texts. Miss your voice. Meet tonight? The family, oblivious to the fault lines, pulled them tighter into the fold. Mom insisted on Sunday suppers at the old house in Bridgeport, where the walls still echoed with Dad's ghost. Gone 5 years now from the Big C, leaving behind a void filled with pot roast and passive-aggressive grace. Uncle Pat, emboldened by Brian's fame, now regaled crowds at the VFW with exaggerated tales. Kids got balls of steel, dived like Superman. Brian endured it with that trademark patience. But Kevin saw the strain, the way his jaw clenched when the praise circled back to Lucky Fluke. One such supper, as the corned beef cooled and the kids, Lily and her cousins, chased fireflies in the yard, Sarah raised her glass. To us, to surviving. Her eyes lingered on Brian, soft with the kind of love forged in crises, not sparks. And to my brother, for always being there. Kevin clinked, but his gaze flicked to Brian across the table. A silent I love you in the tilt of his head. Brian's foot nudged his under the table. Accidental to outsiders, electric to them. Later, as they cleared plates, Mom cornered Kevin in the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour. You seem distant, lad. Everything all right with that girl from the office? He forced a grin. Yeah, Ma. Just work stress. Lies stacked like cordwood. But what choice did he have? Coming out to the Rylus would be like igniting a powder keg. Dad's memory weaponized, whispers turning to shouts. Gay? In this family? After all we've been through? That night, after the dishes and the hugs, Kevin drove Brian home under a canopy of budding elms. The radio hummed low, Springsteen, Thunder Road, all escape and open highways. At a red light near Addison, Brian turned, his profile gilded by street lamps. We need to talk. Kevin's stomach dropped. About us. This. Brian gestured to the space between them, charged as a live wire. It's killing me, Kev. Sarah asked me last week if I was seeing someone. I lied, said it was clinic drama. But she knows me too well. The light turned green. Kevin accelerated, jaw tight. So what? We end it. Brian's hand covered his on the shift. No. God, no. But we can't keep sneaking. It's not fair to her. Or Lily. They pulled into the alley behind the row house, engine ticking cool in the quiet. Brian leaned over the console, kissing him fierce and final, tongues tangling with the desperation of addicts. Meet me tomorrow. The clinic after close. We'll figure it out. Kevin nodded, breathless, watching as Brian slipped inside, the porch light swallowing him whole. Alone, he punched the wheel, tears hot and unbidden. Figure it out. As if love bowed to plans. The next day dawned gray, the lake wind whipping flurries off Michigan Avenue. Kevin called in sick, pacing his apartment like a caged wolf, replaying every stolen moment. By 7 p.m., he was at Lakeshore Clinic, a nondescript brick building in Uptown, its windows glowing against the dusk. The waiting room smelled of antiseptic and stale coffee. Magazines fanned on side tables like forgotten dreams. Brian locked the front door behind him, flipping the sign to closed, his white coat discarded, revealing a fitted tee that hugged his lean frame. You came? Brian said, relief flooding his voice as he pulled Kevin into the back office. A cramped space with filing cabinets and a sagging couch that doubled as a nap spot. Always. Kevin's hands framed Brian's face, thumbs brushing his cheekbones. They tumbled onto the couch, clothes shedding like inhibitions, bodies moving in the rhythm they'd memorized. It was slower this time, reverent, fingers mapping scars, lips tracing vows against skin. I love you, Kevin gasped into the curve of Brian's neck, the words muffled but true. "I love you too," Brian whispered back, his voice breaking on the edge of forever. They climaxed tangled, sweat slick and spent, the world outside fading to irrelevance. But reality intruded with a buzz. Brian's phone, vibrating insistent on the desk. He groaned, reaching for it. "Shit, Sarah." Kevin sat up, heart lurching. "Answer it." Brian did, voice steady as steel. "Hey babe, everything okay?" A pause, then his face drained of color. "Slow down, what happened?" "That I'm on my way." He hung up, scrambling for pants. Lily's school called. Fever spiked, possible meningitis. There at Lurie Children's. Kevin was dressed in seconds, keys in hand. "I'll drive." The ER was a whirlwind of white coats and beeping monitors. Lily tiny and flushed under crisp sheets, for lines snaking her arm like vines. Sarah paced the hall, eyes red-rimmed, clutching a teddy bear gone limp from hugs. "They think it's bacterial," she choked out as they arrived. "She's so scared, Brian." "I can't." He enveloped her, strong and sure. "We've got this. Like always." Turning to Kevin, a flicker of their secret in his eyes. "Not now," before vanishing into the room. Hours blurred. Spinal taps, antibiotics dripping slow, consultations in hushed tones. By dawn, Lily stabilized, the docs optimistic. Exhausted, they collapsed in the family lounge. Sarah curled on a love seat, Brian upright in a plastic chair, Kevin dozing against the vending machine. When Sarah stirred, she fixed Brian with a look that pierced. "Thank you for being here, for everything." He smiled wearily. "Wouldn't be anywhere else." But as she drifted off, her hand slipped from his, and Brian's gaze found Kevin's across the room. Gratitude, yes, but laced with fear. The close call with Lily wasn't just medical. It was a mirror, reflecting the fragility of their house of cards. That afternoon, discharged and homebound, Sarah confronted him in the kitchen while Lily napped. "Brian, talk to me. You've been distant. Is it the hero thing? The attention?" He leaned against the counter, coffee mug scalding his palms. "No. Complicated." She stepped closer, voice soft. "Is it Kevin?" The world tilted. Brian's mug slipped, shattering on the tile. "What?" "I've seen the looks, the texts you delete, the way you light up when he walks in." Tears welled, but her chin lifted, fierce, like the sister Kevin idolized. "I love you, Brian, as my best friend, my partner in this chaos. But if it's more, I deserve the truth." He sank to the floor amid the shards, confession spilling like blood. "I'm sorry. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. Started after the crash, he was there for me and I fell. But I never meant to hurt you." She knelt too, glass crunching under her knees, and pulled him close. Not in anger, but in sorrow. "We built this for Lily, for us, but love isn't a contract." Wiping her eyes, she added, "Tell him, end it clean, or we'll lose everything." Brian nodded, shattered. As she swept the mess, he texted Kevin, "We need to stop. Meet at the lake. Please." Lake Michigan churned under a March gale, waves crashing against the boulders like accusations. Kevin arrived at Montrose Point with his coat flapping, the wind whipping salt spray into his eyes. Brian was already there, silhouette stark against the gray expanse, hands jammed in his pockets, staring out as if the water held answers. The air smelled of wet earth and exhaust from the distant Dan Ryan, a reminder that Chicago never truly slept, even when hearts did. "Brian," Kevin called, voice lost to the roar. He closed the distance, reaching for his arm, but Brian stepped back, expression carved from stone. "Don't." The word was a blade. "We can't do this anymore." Kevin's world narrowed to the space between them, cold seeping through his soles. "What? Why?" "Last night, the clinic." Last night was the last. Brian turned, eyes stormy as the lake. "Sarah knows." The admission hit like a rogue wave, knocking the air from Kevin's lungs. "How? Does it matter?" She saw it. The guilt, the distance. "I told her everything." Brian's voice cracked, but he pressed on. She's not mad. Not at you anyway. But this ends, Kev. For Lily. For the family we pretended to be. Pretended. The word festered, poisoning the memories. Kevin grabbed his sleeve, desperate. We can fix this. Talk to her. Tell her it's real, that I love you more than... Stop. Brian wrenched free, face twisting. You think love fixes betrayal? I married her knowing who I was, for a life that made sense. You waltzed in like some white knight, stealing pieces of me she never had. And now, I've broken her trust. Our daughter's world. Kevin reeled, the wind howling his fury. Broken? You're the one who kissed me back. Who said you loved me in that goddamn motel, whispering promises while she slept alone. Brian flinched, but his jaw set. I did love you, but love isn't selfish. It's not sneaking around like teenagers, lying to everyone who matters. He raked a hand through his hair, wind-tossed and wild. Go home, Kevin. Let me salvage what's left. He turned to leave, boots crunching gravel, but Kevin lunged, spinning him back. You don't get to decide alone. This is us, we're the story here. Their faces inches apart, breaths mingling hot against the chill. And for a heartbeat, Kevin thought he'd crack. Pull him close, drown the pain in familiar heat. Instead, Brian shoved him away, hard enough to stagger. There is no us. Not anymore. Then he was gone, swallowed by the path to the parking lot, taillights fading into the dusk like dying embers. Kevin sank to the rocks, waves mocking his sobs. Betrayal? It tasted like his own reflection. The brother who'd mocked first, the lover who'd taken without giving back. How had he become the villain in his own redemption arc? The fallout cascaded like dominoes. Sarah iced him out. Texts unanswered. Sunday suppers canceled with vague family time excuses. Brian vanished from the clinic's roster, a 2-week leave for personal reasons. His desk cleared of the succulents Kevin had gifted in secret. Kevin threw himself into work, pitching feverishly until the brewery campaign ballooned into a regional tour. Billboards sprouting across the Midwest with slogans like Brew Your Truth. Ironic that his tagline splashed in neon while his truths rotted unspoken. Nights were the worst. He'd prowl Wicker Park bars, nursing IPAs amid hipsters and heartbreak ballads, eyes scanning for dark hair and green eyes that never appeared. One sloppy evening at the Empty Bottle, he hooked up with a sound tech named Jax. Tattooed arms, easy grin. But midway through, fumbling in a bathroom stall, Kevin bolted, muttering wrong, all wrong. Jax called him an asshole. Kevin agreed. Mom noticed, of course. Over a forced coffee at and Sather's, cinnamon rolls cooling between them, she prodded gently. Your sister's not speaking to you, lad. What's this about? Kevin stirred his latte, foam swirling like his gut. Family stuff. Brian and me. We had a fight. Her eyes narrowed, sharp as Dad's old pocket knife. About the hero business? Or something else? He met her gaze, the weight of years cracking. Something else. Ma, I'm gay. Have been forever. And Brian, he's... The words tumbled, confession spilling like the rain that pattered the cafe window. She sat back, processing, then reached for his hand. Oh, Kevin, why didn't you say? No thunderclaps, no disownment. Just quiet sorrow. Your father. He struggled with it himself, you know. Never said, but I saw. Loved you boys anyway. The revelation stunned him. Dad, the stoic bricklayer with his Packers caps and prayers. You mean? I. Blood's thicker than secrets. She squeezed his fingers. Fix it with Sarah. And that Brian, if he's family, fight for him right. Emboldened, Kevin showed up at the row house that weekend, Lily's birthday in tow. A wrapped American Girl doll and a plea. Sarah answered the door, hair in a messy bun, eyes wary but softening at the gift. She'll love it. Come in. The living room was a riot of balloons and streamers. Lily giggling on the carpet with cousins. Cake smeared on her cheeks. Brian hovered in the kitchen, icing cupcakes, his back a wall of tension. When their eyes met, it was agony, raw, unspoken I miss you hanging in the air. Sarah pulled Kevin aside, voice low. He told me you confessed. To your mom, too. Yeah. He swallowed. I'm sorry, Sarah. For everything. I never meant to. She held up a hand. Save it. I get it. Love's a thief. But Lily? She needs stability. Not drama. Glancing at Brian, her expression fractured. We're separating. Quietly. For her. Kevin's heart stuttered. What? Counseling first. But yeah, it's been coming. She sighed, weary. He still loves you, you know? That's the knife twist. The party dragged. Pin the tail on the donkey. A chorus of happy birthday off-key. But under it all, Kevin and Brian orbited like planets on collision course. Finally, as guests trickled out, Lily yawning in Sarah's arms, Brian cornered him in the hall. You shouldn't have come. Had to. Kevin's voice was rough. Sarah told me. About you too. Brian leaned against the wall, exhausted. It's for the best. Co-parenting works. But us? Too much damage. Bullshit. Kevin stepped closer, the air crackling. You pushed me away to protect them. Noble, sure. But what about you? What about us? Brian's resolve crumbled, eyes glistening. I can't lose her. Lily's my world. And I'm not. The hurt lashed out, venomous. You are. Brian's whisper broke. That's why it hurts. They collided then. Not gentle, but fierce, mouths crashing in the dim hall, hands fisting shirts. It was goodbye wrapped in desperation. Tongues battling for dominance. Bodies pressing as if to merge. Brian tasted of frosting and tears, Kevin of regret and rage. When they broke, gasping, Brian's forehead rested against his. Go, before I beg you to stay. Kevin left, the door clicking like a guillotine. Outside, spring rain fell soft, washing the streets clean. But some stains lingered. Weeks turned to a tense truce. Sarah filed papers, amicable with joint custody etched in legalese. The family rallied, potlucks turning therapeutic. Mom's casseroles a currency of comfort. Brian moved to a studio in Andersonville, a stone's throw from the clinic, its walls bare but for Lily's finger paintings. Kevin visited under pretense, picking up mail, checking the swing set, each encounter a minefield of glances and grazed knuckles. Then came the call that shattered the fragile peace. Uncle Pat, 3 whiskeys deep at a White Sox game, cornered a reporter nursing a Bud Light. That hero? Brian? Yeah, the gay one. Whole thing's a sham. Married my niece for the green card or some shit. Probably faked the save for sympathy bucks. It aired on a local podcast, Cheetown Confessions, viral within hours. Hashtags erupted. Fake hero family drama. The Tribune followed with receptionist savior or sham marriage. Sources say. Brian's phone exploded. Clinic firing him pending investigation. Sponsors pulling from his impromptu speaking gigs. Strangers demanding slurs. He holed up, blinds drawn, emerging only for Lily's drop-offs, face gaunt as a ghost. Kevin found him there, pounding on the door until his fists bruised. Let me in, damn it. The lock clicked, Brian appearing hollow-eyed, stubble shadowing his jaw. What do you want, Kev? To gloat. To kill him. Kevin pushed inside, slamming the door. The studio was a mess. Take-out boxes, unopened mail, a bottle of Jameson half gone. Pat's full of shit. I'll make him recant. Brian collapsed onto the futon, head in hands. Too late. The damage. Sarah's furious. Thinks I leaked it to spite her. Kevin knelt, prying his hands away. She doesn't. I talked to her. She knows it's Pat's booze talking. Cupping Brian's face, thumbs wiping tears. You're not alone. Brian's laugh was bitter. Feels like it. But he leaned in, forehead to Kevin's, breath sinking. Why do you keep coming back? After everything? Because I love you. Simple, unadorned. And heroes deserve happy endings. They kissed then, slow and healing, bodies unfolding like forgotten maps. Clothes whispered to the floor, skin meeting skin in the afternoon light slanting through cracks. It was worship, gentle explorations, gasps swallowed whole, climaxes shared like sacraments. Afterward, Tangled in sheets that smelled of him, Brian murmured, "Stay." Kevin did. For the night, for the week, and slowly the world righted. The scandal crested like a summer squall, drenching everything in its path before burning off into uneasy calm. By April, with dogwoods blooming defiant along Milwaukee Avenue, the podcast retracted Pat, sobered by Mom's wrought iron guilt trip and a cease and desist from Sarah's lawyer cousin, issuing a teary apology on local access TV. "I misspoke. Brian's family saved my grandniece's life, no question." The clinic rehired him, back pay included, and the Tribune ran a mea culpa piece. Missteps in the spotlight. A hero's true tale. Brian's hero status solidified. Invitations trickling in from TEDx knockoffs and LGBTQ+ youth groups. His story reframed as one of quiet courage amid prejudice. But scars lingered, pink and tender. Sarah and Brian's separation formalized into a co-parenting blueprint. Lily shuttling between homes with a backpack of stuffed animals and scheduled FaceTimes. She took it in stride, kindergarten chatter bubbling over dinner about Daddy Brian's new birdie friends, the parakeets he'd adopted to fill the quiet. Sarah dated tentatively, a barista with a poetry chapbook, but her eyes softened when Brian showed up for recitals, his presence a steady anchor. Kevin and Brian? They rebuilt brick by brick. No grand gestures, just the grind of real love. Weekends at the Lincoln Park Zoo, where Lily chased flamingos and they stole kisses behind the giraffe house. Evenings at Brian's studio, now warmed with thrift store rugs and shelves of dog-eared novels. Brian reading Whitman aloud while Kevin sketched ad concepts on napkins. Sex evolved too, from frantic releases to languid mornings, bodies learning each other's languages. The dip of a spine, the stutter of breath at a collarbone kiss. Yet conflict simmered, bubbling up in unexpected fissures. One humid June night, after a family picnic at Grant Park where Uncle Pat avoided Brian's gaze like radiation, they argued in the car. Lake traffic crawled, horns blaring like accusations. "You should have decked him," Kevin growled, gripping the wheel, "when he spilled that crap. Instead, you just took it." Brian stared out at the yacht club lights. "Violence fixes nothing. Learned that young. Growing up queer in a house of holy rollers, you swallow or you shatter." Kevin's foot twitched on the gas. "Swallow? That's bullshit. Stand up for yourself, for us." "Us." Brian's laugh was sharp. "This isn't a rom-com, Kev. Real life's gray. I fight my way, words, not fists. Saved Lily with my hands, not hate." The words stung, dredging Kevin's shame. "And I mocked you. For years. Joked about your desk job, while you balanced the world on your shoulders." Silence thickened, broken only by the AC's hum. Brian sighed, hand finding Kevin's thigh. "Yeah, you did, but you changed. That's the win." They parked at Brian's, the fight dissolving into make-up sex on the kitchen counter. Urgent, affirming, dishes clattering to the floor. But the seed was planted. Kevin's impatience, his American dream drive to conquer love, clashing with Brian's patient humanism, rooted in survival's quiet dignity. Summer deepened the divide. Lily's swim lessons at the Belmont Yacht Club brought them into Pat's orbit. The uncle coaching Pee-wee teams, his redemption arc performative as a reality show. One sweltering afternoon, as Lily splashed in the kiddie pool, Pat sidled up, beer guts straining his polo. "Brian, buddy, about that mess. Water under the bridge." Brian, towel-draped and sun-kissed, nodded curtly. "Yeah, bridge intact." Pat clapped his shoulder. "Too hard. Good man. Hey Kevin, your boy's got that fire now. Hero vibes." He winked, oblivious to the bomb he'd dropped. "Your boy." The assumption landed like shrapnel. Kevin froze, smile plastic, while Brian's eyes darkened. Later, poolside beers sweating in their hands, the explosion came. "He knows." Brian hissed, voice low under the lifeguard's whistle. Kevin shrugged, guilty. "Mom must have told him, after I came out." "And you didn't warn me?" Hurt flashed, raw as the scrape from the crash long healed. It slipped. With everything, the scandal, the separation. Excuses wilted under Brian's stare. Slipped. Brian set his bottle down, deliberate. I'm not your dirty secret, Kevin. Not anymore. He walked away, leaving Kevin amid chlorine haze and children's laughter, the betrayal a mirror to his own past sins. That night, alone in his apartment, Kevin scrolled old photos. Lily's baptism, Sarah's wedding, Brian's tentative smile at the altar. How did we get here? The climax brewed over 4th of July, the city exploding in red, white, and blue fervor. They gathered at Mom's for ribs and fireworks, Lily waving sparklers like wands. Tension simmered. Sarah and her barista, Evan, earnest with sleeve tattoos, exchanging shy glances. Pat nursing a grudge beer. Brian and Kevin orbiting warily, touches avoided. As dusk fell and the sky lit with chrysanthemum bursts, disaster struck. Not metaphorically, but real. Lily, hyped on sugar and lights, darted after a rogue sparkler into the street, just as a neighbor's pickup reversed from the driveway. Time slowed. Horns, screams, the crunch inevitable. Brian moved first, always did, barreling from the porch like a freight train, tackling Lily mid-stride, rolling them both to the grass as the truck's bumper kissed air. The family froze, then surged. Sarah wailing, Mom crossing herself, Pat yelling expletives at the driver. Kevin reached them last, heart in his throat, pulling Brian up with Lily clutched safe. You okay? Jesus. Brian coughed, grass-stained and grinning through adrenaline. Yeah, little grass in my teeth. But, his eyes met Kevin's, fierce. Told you, hands not hate. The scare cracked the facade. Around the picnic table, under starburst skies, truth spilled. Sarah, clutching Lily, nodded at Brian. He's right. We fight smart. Like family. Pat, chastened, raised his bottle. To Brian, real hero. And, sorry, kid. For the noise. Mom, ever the matriarch, pulled Kevin aside. Enough hiding, lad. Love him out loud. Emboldened, Kevin found Brian by the fence, fireworks painting his face in gold. Marry me, not pretend. Real. Brian's laugh was watery. Bossy. But yeah. Hell yeah. They kissed under the finale, oblivious to cheers. Sarah's whoop, Lily's giggles, even Pat's gruff clap. Betrayal's edge dulled to a scar, the storm breaking into rainbow light. Autumn draped Chicago in amber and rust, leaves skittering like confetti along the 606 trail as Kevin and Brian planned their quiet life. No Vegas excess or destination weddings, just a backyard ceremony at Mom's, under the old oak Dad planted in '72, with Lily as flower girl scattering petals from a basket woven by Sarah's class. Evan, now steady at Sarah's side, officiated with a chapbook vow. Love isn't a straight line. It's the detour that gets you home. The guest list was intimate. Mom beaming through tears, Pat nursing a seltzer, sworn off the hard stuff, Aunt Maureen with her fruit basket fleet, and a smattering of clinic colleagues who'd become chosen family. Sarah walked Brian down the aisle, her arm looped in his, a sisterly echo of forgiveness, whispering, "You deserve this joy, Bree. We all do." Lily, in a tulle dress, tugged Kevin's sleeve pre-ceremony. "Uncle Kev, you making Daddy happy forever?" "Promise, squirt." He ruffled her curls, throat tight. Happiness forever. After the mocks, the crash, the secrets, felt like grace, unearned but embraced. Vows exchanged under a canopy of strung lights. Rings simple gold bands engraved hands over hate. Brian's voice, steady as his dive for Lily that rainy night. "You saw me, really saw when I was invisible. I promised to hold you through the storms, laugh at your bad pitches, and love you loud." Kevin, choking up. "You saved more than my niece that night. You saved me from cowardice, from alone. I'll fight for us, every day, with words and wonders." The kiss sealed it, soft, then deepening, cheers erupting as fireworks. Legal ones, Pat's contribution, cracked overhead. Dinner followed. Mom's corned beef reborn as sliders. Craft beers from Kevin's campaign toasting brewed true. Lily danced with her dads on the grass, barefoot and giggling, while Sarah and Evan swayed nearby, her head on his shoulder. "We're okay," she mouthed to Kevin across the yard. And they were co-parents, exes turned allies, the betrayal transmuted to something stronger. But life, American as apple pie and traffic jams, didn't halt at I do. Challenges crept in gentle. Brian's TEDx talk in October, From Desk to Dive. Queerness and quiet courage, going viral anew, drawing hate mail alongside fan letters from kids in red states whispering me too. Kevin fielded it with him, drafting responses laced with humor. "Thanks for the feedback. Next time I'll save the cat for bonus points." While Mom organized a neighborhood watch against trolls. Work pulled too. Kevin's promotion to creative director meant longer hours, schmoozing clients over martinis, but he carved space. Date nights at the Wiener's Circle for chili dogs and banter. Weekend getaways to Door County where they hiked bluffs hand in hand. Lake Michigan, a blue echo of home. Intimacy deepened, vulnerabilities bared in the afterglow. One crisp November eve, post-Lily's school play, She is a Fierce Tree in the Lorax. They lay Abed in their new Logan Square brownstone, upgraded from the studio, with a yard for that swing set. Brian traced Kevin's wedding band, voice soft. "Ever regret the mess? The family fallout." Kevin pulled him closer, legs entwining. "Regret? Nah, it's the grit that makes the pearl." He kissed Brian's temple, inhaling the scent of his shampoo. Clean, like possibility. "You taught me that." Their lovemaking was unhurried, a symphony of touches. Kevin's mouth mapping freckles across Brian's chest, Brian's fingers threading hair as he arched, gasps harmonizing with the radiator's hiss. Climax crested shared, bodies shuddering in unison. Then stillness, wrapped in each other, hearts sinking like metronomes. Lily thrived, a whirlwind of pigtails and questions. "Why two daddies?" answered with storybooks and hugs. Sarah remarried Evan in a spring ceremony. Lily as maid of honor, the families blending seamless. Pat even walking her down, redeemed in his gruff way. Holidays healed. Thanksgiving with toasts to survivors. Christmas with trees double-lit. Mom's lights twinkling like stars. Yet the humanistic core pulsed beneath, the knowledge that love's not a cure-all, but a companion through the ache. Brian mentored at a youth center, sharing his receptionist wisdom. Listen first, act second. Kevin volunteered pitches for queer nonprofits, his ads blooming empathy in bus stops. They fought, sure, over laundry piles or whose turn for dishes, but made up with laughter, the kind that echoes. 1 year post-vows, on that rainy November anniversary, they retraced the crash site. Now a quiet corner with a community garden, flowers nodding in the drizzle. Lily, 7 and wise, clutched Brian's hand. "You saved me here, Daddy, like a superhero." Brian knelt, eye level. "Nah, kiddo. Heroes are every day, like your Uncle Kev making Mom smile, or you sharing toys." Kevin watched, chest full, as she hugged them both. Back home, over pizza and inside out, the circle closed. Family not by blood alone, but by choice, by dives into the unknown. As snow dusted the windows, Kevin pulled Brian aside, whispering against his ear. "Mocked receptionist to my husband. Best plot twist ever." Brian grinned, that crinkle-eyed smile. "Damn right. And the sequel? Even better." In the heart of the heartland, amid the roar of the L and the whisper of winds off the lake, they built their ending, not flawless, but human. Deeply, defiantly so. Love, after all, saves lives one brave leap at a time.